Hey guys, welcome to my first ever Emperor account review. My name's Jas, and I have been playing this game for just over a year now. I am a light spender. I am not free to play, far from it, but I haven't gone too deep into this. You know, in terms of money spent, we're still less than 4 digits, which I mean, for some people that's still a decent amount of money, but considering the whales that exist out there in this game, yeah, it's not that much compared to them. Again, I've been playing for just over a year now. Some of y'all may have heard that I've been playing for less than, but that's false. I'm pretty sure when the season ended I was just over a year. Here's the proof. Total logins 394 and the same login streak of 394. I do have a 2021 medal, but this is irrelevant as I made this account back in 2021 but never actually played during said time, so I am missing all the collabs and units and whatnot from that time. So it's whatever. I don't really know what else to say here. This is my first ever time doing a account review. I guess I could give some shoutouts to Amsu and some fellow RTA players in the community over there that helped out. We all ended Emp together. It was a lot of fun, lots of problem solving and just helping out and learning each other's draft, as not a single one of us had like very similar drafts. We all played very differently, right? But that created an amazing learning environment, which I am very happy to have been involved in. And yeah, just lots of props to them, lots of fun. My thoughts on the season, honestly, I think it was a chaotic mess, but you could still navigate it if you figured out your pre-bans and had a set core units that you wanted to play and draft, right? And that's exactly what I did this season. My MVP on screen right now, Conqueror Lilias. She was my most picked and most played unit of the season. Drafted essentially my whole draft style centered on her on 3, so it worked out. And it also helped that she was also just very strong in general, right? She is the original opener, I feel like. She works alright into Hellion Lua, which was unintentional, but hey, like, because we were already playing her and she released, it just added on to the fact that it helped, it was strong, etc. My pre-bans, it took some figuring out. I think I was swapping between a lot of pre-bans for most of the season until maybe like the last 2 weeks, where I fully figured out what I wanted to pre-ban, which ended up being Sea Phantom, Politis, and Cidd. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get into it. I sort my units by speed, so we will be going through as such, and this is my Conqueror Lilias. Again, season MVP, most played unit. I believe I had a just under 54% win rate with her, which is pretty surprising for me, especially considering that last season when I tried to end Emperor, didn't go well, but at the same time, I was playing very suboptimally, didn't own as many units compared to this season. Just a bad mess, essentially. But yeah, super strong. I play her fast and bulky, just super all around. Don't really care too much about effectiveness, as most teams and units that I come across, they just don't build ER, right? So like, what's the point of building effectiveness if they don't have ER? And also just trying to chase those stats at the same time, as well as chasing speed and bulk, it's just very demanding. Don't have that gear. Been playing for just over a year, right? So if we don't have it, we can't do it. Doesn't matter. Sweet Miracle, she has my only plus 30 Sweet Miracle. I have a 15, but as we'll go further into my roster, you'll see I don't even have Laya built. I played very aggressive and standard with Conqueror Lilias, and I just couldn't make Laya work for like the entire season. Empyrean Ilanav just shuts off like the whole win con condition of her S3, right? And also, I had my gear spread out too much to really make Laya viable. If I did have her built, she was very subpar compared to like many other Layas out there, so it was like, what's the point? Just play the strongest units I have available, and that's what we did. Up next, Luna. This is not her actual build that we played the entire season. It was slightly slower, 285, basically the same bulk in HP, slightly more effectiveness. Yeah, this unit's fucking ridiculous, right? Being able to shut down, you know, a lot of units in the game who depend on passives, essentially forcing opponents to either speed up in response to your Muna, so essentially getting cleaved, or just play cleansers, play slower, which ends up in a very predictable draft, right? And just being able to do some damage on her own, you know, decrease defense 1 turn, 50% CR, splash damage, very strong. Played her on book, it's just consistent, reliable. I can't even play Edika's, right, since my Edika is only 15, so not really an option. Immunity, always nice to have, just prevents you from being controlled turn 1, unless they bring multiple controllers who outspeed you, right? Yeah, just really strong unit. I left her open for the latter half of the season, right? Decided dealing with Sea Phantom and Cidd was not worth it, so I pre-banned those two and decided dealing with New Moon Luna was more viable than trying to deal with those two units. As well as just being able to play her, right? Super strong unit, play her if you own her, yada yada yada. Green Cidd, I don't really know what to say about this unit. I built him as imprints, you know, for the like last week of the season in case I ran across like cleavers or other imprint racers, as well as just the fact that I don't really own that many good anti-cleave answers, so I kind of got frustrated, right, and just decided to build a bunch of imprints to give myself that possibility of imprint racing and just cleaving back the cleaver, right? Because what's the point of trying to hunker down and anti-cleave if we don't even have said anti-cleave units? So yeah, I built him. He's not great, alright, especially for trying to go for Emperor, right? 290, I don't think that's it. It's just not fast enough, surprisingly. He does damage, especially since I play so much Conk. He'll have Vigor buff, and if we get a attack or Gab, he'll just kill stuff. But we didn't really see much play with him, so moving on. Lua. It's Lua. I didn't really play her much. If I did, it was probably like 4 or 5 pick, and in response to like an Amiki pick, since she's one of the few who can cool down, reset her, right? As well as just giving, you know, more tempo, speed buff, and some damage in Beguile. It's Lua, didn't really see much play. Wanderer Silk, again, same case for Cidd. Imprint, we were actually not on Sachet for the season, we were on a Guiding Light. Just gave her that, you know, I don't know. I'm not very well versed or educated when it comes to being very, very aggressive or imprinting up, but she was on Guiding Light, right? Just prevent them from targeting her. But looking back on it now, I probably should have just played Sasha the entire season, since I play Conqueror, so, you know, I give Vigor, Silk, she has a buff, she can dual attack, GG. But, yeah, I wasn't very bright. I overlooked that fact, but, yeah, it's a Silk. It has effectiveness, which I think is very important. You want to debuff, push back, whatever. Do her job, right? Gala Lilias, very strong, especially if you've already taken Ilanav or you pre-banned it. And yeah, she was very good for me. She worked very well, considering, I mean, I'm only 273, but I think that's enough most of the time, right? Especially if I'm already playing an opener such as Conqueror Lilias. Really strong duo. I give Vigor, if I had imprints, I would give her even more attack. Unfortunately, we don't. But, give Vigor to Gala, and essentially, she goes from chunking very high HP targets to nearly one-shotting them. I think with my damage stats and Vigor buff, she would do around 31k with no mitigation, which is more than enough for a lot of units in the game, all but the most chunky. Yeah, she used to be slightly faster and slightly better damage stats, but we stole some of her pieces for Afternoon Soak Flan, which we will be approaching very shortly. I don't have a plus 30 Wind Rider. I wish I did, but if I did have one, it'd go straight onto Gala Lilias. Aramintha, I didn't have this unit built until like the last week of the season, and I am glad that I did build her during that last week of the season. She was a very close contender for like, if there's MVP, she's like the second most valuable, I feel like. Actually no. I take that back. Second most valuable is definitely Soak Flan, but that's besides the point. I mean, she was just building her, right, was very important for me, as I just didn't own that many hard control units in the game. I don't own DDR, I don't own Silverblade, yeah, I also don't own like Ambitious Tywin, right, so a lot of hard control units in the game I just didn't own. And some drafts where going debuffers on 4-5 versus a no cleanse team would be extremely strong, but I didn't own said units until Sue pointed out for me. Shout out to him, he's the one who brought this up, as well as just occasionally seeing Sputnik play Aramintha and just knowing about said unit really helped out, just pointing out, hey, we should build this unit, she's actually pretty decent, and she'll serve that, you know, hard control role that I really needed in the draft. And yeah, she pulled through, won me a decent amount of games when I did play her. I think, let me just check stats right now. We didn't play her that much, as again, only really drafted her during the last week when we built her, but yeah, it says right here on the Epic 7 GG, 63.6% win rate. She won me a lot of those games where I did draft her well. Yeah, awesome unit, especially for someone like me who doesn't own every good PvP unit in the game. Cough cough, DDR. Standard Nahkwol, right? Some speed, could go slower if you wanted, honestly. Like, Nahkwol is just one of those units you always want to have built, I feel like, and a lot of different builds work for her. I have immunity set to give me that option of buff stacking. In the event, like, it's a very niche event, but in case you ever drafted her against like Lua, Blue Lua for example, or just buff stack with stuff like protection set, prevents you from getting Requiem Roana or just like one buff strips, and some 2 buff strips because of the stealth buff. Just a standard Nahkwol. She has a decent amount of effectiveness, but I feel like 200 standard, try to shoot for 200 if you can. I might slow her down in the future, try to shoot for that if I can. Yeah. Here's my Zeo, Bruiser Zeo. I don't have a lot of good success with this unit, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, sure, the whole concept and idea of a unit guaranteeing turn 1 essentially is great and all, but if you don't have the units that combo with him or complement him well, it just feels awful, right? I don't own Jacko, so I don't have that cleave option. I don't own some hard control units such as Hellion Lua that released. Funnily enough, I did consider pulling for Lua, but decided against it. I kind of regret that now, but whatever. Past is the past. I decided to go for a more bruiser build during the last week of the season. You know, try to find some sort of role or niche for Zeo, but again, just didn't really have much success with him. I don't really like him that much, to be honest. Like, it's not like this build is bad or anything, other than we're lacking speed, but what can you do? If we don't have the gear, we can't build it. Yeah. I might, in the future, I might swap back the book if I can afford it. I only have 2 max books, so feels really rough. But, yeah, that's my Zeo. Blue Elena. I mean, I built her, right? I just built her as a potential anti-cleave answer, but we didn't really draft her that much, and again, just not owning that many good anti-cleave answers just feels really rough. Cleave is by far the weakest draft style I am weak to, or no, it's by far the most oppressive draft style for me to face up against. Like, I just don't own good answers or disruptors like CR cutting with Abyssal Euphine, or just good strong mitigation or flexible all-around mitigation like Ambitious Tywin with the cleanse and then follow up Deathbreak stun. I just don't own that many good anti-cleave answers, so I built this. I don't even know if I want a game drafting her, but yeah, that's my build. The tomes for the event that I might fight a red poly, right? So she'll still cut to the front, but that didn't really happen much. Didn't draft her. Felt bad. Yeah. Afternoon Soak Flan. This unit is fucking broken. Who would have thought? Having on-demand dual attacks essentially with a chance to stun, right? And just doing really high damage if you built for it, as well as being a bridge and having 100% evasion, is just ridiculous. She is by far definitely the second most valuable unit for me for the season. I played very aggressive and standard with Conqueror, and Soak Flan just pairs extremely well with Conqueror if the opponent does not draft Solitaria or like just responds to the aggression, because I believe a lot of people kind of expected more slower, higher damage, or even lifesteal Flans, but with my draft style, whenever I go Conk on 3, a lot of people probably just weren't expecting a essentially cleave Flan, or just a really fast one. I built mine fast for multiple reasons. One is it's just the best gear set I could build. I didn't really have many good soul, crit damage, high attack, okay bulk, Destro pieces, as well as lifesteal, and I just really like the idea of turning her into a bridge, since whenever she duels, she pushes herself 25%. That's a really big push. You can build her slower speed than, let's say, ML Ludwig or Blue Ida. She doesn't have to be crazy fast. I think the minimum speed I need for my 302 Conqueror was 239, but I decided to speed her up towards the last week of the season, by swapping off the helmet for more speed to prevent the scenario where if I do imprint up with Conk, that she will still cut to the front. So yeah, super strong unit. Definitely, she gets like her own MVP medal essentially for the season, right? It's Conk and Flan. There's another MVP I'm probably gonna mention later on in the video, but moving on. Infinite Horizon Achates. This is actually one out of 2 Achates I own. I built 2. I believe she is one of the few units that actually kind of deals with or answers New Moon Luna, but because of how flexible Luna is, it's very important to be able to answer those different scenarios. So having multiple builds is preferable in my opinion, and yeah, this is my first Achates build. I went for decent bulk, higher speed, some ER. I might change this in the future. I'm not sure if ER is actually too necessary for this build. She's on Eternus, right, to be able to cut all the way to the front if they even try to debuff at the start. Yeah, I mean, I don't even have any other good Soul Weaver artifact options in the first place, so for this build specifically, where we're faster, decent bulk, Eternus is the way. Moving on, ML Rat. My build's really mid. It's super mid. Really, she's like on and off in my opinion. For my draft style in particular, she didn't really feel too great most of the time. I'm just, depending on my drafts, I'm just not really geared or equipped to be able to deal with very tanky, slow comps, and Rat being one of the few answers I do have for said comps, just never felt like enough. Yeah, it just didn't really feel like enough. I mean, she works when she works, but it's rough, right? I mean, I have her. She's not even maximal load. What can you do? She has my second Sweet Miracle, but it's only plus 15. I wasn't sure what artifact to go with. It was between Proof of Valor or Sweet Miracle. I think I ended up going with Sweet Miracle most of the season, but there were times where I was on POV. The immunity is not really for any particular reason. It was just what I could do essentially. Yeah, that's my Rat. Fire Schuri. Yeah, he's another imprint. Hold Sash. Reason for him being so fast, I don't remember when I geared this. Probably the last week of the season when I was doing a very massive gear re-gearing and like unit reprioritization, right? Decided to just speed him up because if he's a bit faster, he'd be able to cut to the front and then further bridge alongside Soak Flan. That was the whole reasoning of speeding him up, just to be able to keep the cycling going and just, you know, keep the cycling going. But if you outspeed in that kind of scenario, you tend to win anyway, so it was whatever. Old build used to just be like base speed, all Destro, as much damage as you can, but I think either one works. I mean, it's an imprint. I'm not an expert in this, so yeah, that's my Schuri. This is my Dragon Bride. Yeah, it's it's the Dragon Ball Senya, alright. I used her a good amount at the start of the season, but not so much towards the latter half. If I did draft her, it tended to be when Elena was pre-banned, and kind of drafted her in anticipation for Cleave. Like, she was one of the few somewhat anti-Cleave answers I owned, but it didn't really work all that much, other than a couple of times. But yeah, this is my Senya build. If I were to change anything, I might try to go for more HP, more bulk, slow it down in the future. But how it is right now, it's serviceable. I mean, being fast is kind of nice. It allows me to be more aggressive with her. Push up herself as well as the ally in the back by 30. Still pretty decent, but yeah, just didn't really play her that much. Bunny Dominiel, I didn't really play this unit. Yeah, I mean she has deer, right? But didn't really play her. Played very aggressive, played a lot of Conqueror, so like, and some of the units she could somewhat answer, like DDR with extra turn, or like Nahkwol for example, it's not enough, so what's the point of drafting her if it's a losing draft? Yeah. Here's my Veronica. Just like Wanderer Silk earlier, this is not what she was on earlier, or during the season. Pretty sure she was on Sash. I don't think I really had any particular reason for that, other than just the fact like she's an imprint. She can kind of deal with Bloodblade Karen now because of the whole immortality and CR pushes, but I didn't even have her S2 Mola for the entire season. Mola is very rough right now. I only have 14, and I'm probably gonna put that into like Hua Young maybe. Yeah, just a standard Veronica. I tried to go for like some bulk, mid speed, and then just obviously high crit, I mean max crit, because you only get the extra turn if you crit, and high effectiveness because you want to land those debuffs. Yeah, that's my Veronica. Angel of Light, I didn't really draft her that much. There were probably cases where I could have, but I just didn't. My draft style just didn't really feel all that great. If I did draft her, I'd be missing a lot of damage, right? Or leave myself open to post-banning the opponent, post-banning my DPS, so then I'd just be in a losing battle anyway. Played her on a plus 15 book, wish I had a plus 30. We just don't have enough books, right? High F, mid speed. No particular reason, just a standard AOL build. I think this unit is very much a unit you need to figure out a role for. I didn't really figure that out during the season, but it didn't really matter. Didn't really play her. Didn't really matter. So, yeah. Second Achates build. Slightly slower. Not too slow, but slightly slower. 231. Pretty decent bulk and some ER. On Rod, since I don't own any other good Soul Weaver artifacts. Wish I had Guardian Ice Crystal. I do not, so we play the next best stuff we own. This Achates, compared to the first one, which was more of an anti-cleave or Luna cleave style Achates answer, this one is a more standard Luna draft answer. I would draft this one if they slowed down right with New Moon Luna, and yeah, it worked sometimes, or a decent amount. I'm not really too sure. I can try to check her win rate real quick actually. Where is she? Meh. 47.9% win rate. Like, even though she is one of the few units that can answer New Moon Luna, she's still very difficult to use and figure out the correct builds for her. I think she's more of a high skill cap unit or skill ceiling unit in the game. However, even if that sounds very weird, but I think that's just the case, right? You need to figure out her actual role, her intentions, right? And it's just complicated. If I could, I'd have like 2 more Achates builds if I could afford it, but we only have two right now. Keeping my eye out for potential dupes in the future, and then giving them, you know, different dedicated roles. Fire Lilias. This was an experiment, trying to find units or trying to find mitigation knights that could actually have an alright shot at fighting Elena first pick, since she cuts off so many good options that you kind of have to get creative, right? If you want to find some sort of draft solution, and Lilias was one of those experiments. Didn't really play her that much, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I built her as a tank mitigation. On the S2 EE for some push and tempo and barrier. I mean, it's a Lilias, a untraditional Lilias, but a Lilias nonetheless. Didn't really draft her that much. She worked sometimes, but not reliably. Yeah, that's my Lilias. Fire Surin, she just has gear. She's an imprint, doesn't really matter. If I had a second Alexa's basket, I'd probably put it on her, but her damage is so subpar, especially while missing Mola, that her pure purpose is just to be an imprint. Watcher Schuri, same case, but not drafted as much as the other imprints, as I mean, he's more of a cleave imprint. He can one-shot some stuff with his S3, but he's not even Molo'd, so yeah, he's just an imprint. I have gear on him. Albedo, kind of forgot about this unit, not going to lie. She just has gear. She just has like spare gear. I decided to put Aureus on her, make her a bit of a tank, but didn't really draft her that much. Not even 30k HP with SS imprint. Not even 50 effectiveness. It's really bad, but doesn't really matter since we didn't really play her that much. Designer Lilibet. I have mixed feelings about this unit, right? I decided to go with her for my headhunt. I think it was an alright decision, but I definitely should have considered my options a lot longer than I should have. I mean, it's not like she was a bad pick, like she's still decent, right? But for my draft style during the entire season and last week, she just doesn't fit in. Trying to play like more aggressive with her, or trying to play more aggressive in general with Conqueror Lilias and friends, she just doesn't really fit in too much. The rare cases where I did pick her, not enough impact, not enough damage. She was more of just a cleanse at that point, but even then, it's like, just didn't really provide enough impact for me personally. Not to say she's a bad unit, but I think it was just purely like she just didn't fit my draft style. I might change her build in the future, slow her down, give her a lot more damage, make her more of that bruiser utility cleanse that she kind of wants to be. 210 speed was mainly to like cut cleave or openers or debuffers, but it didn't really do much for me during the season. Yeah, that's my Lilibet. Politis 1 of 2. She doesn't even have Mola, right? She doesn't even have Mola yet. I'm still working on trying to friendship her, which I haven't even started. It's a Degen Politis. Some effectiveness, some bulk, mid speed, Abyssal Crown. It's a Politis. I didn't really draft her too much other than rare cases where I needed a CR cut, but those were pretty rare. Yeah, Politis 1 of 2. Ocean Breeze Luluca. Didn't really draft her that much. She's still alright, but in this hostile meta, she just didn't slot in very many places. Yeah, she just didn't really work out for me, especially since I'm playing more aggressive. Where do I have space to put in a cleanser, right? So Didn't really work out for me. Didn't really play her that much. Don't really have many thoughts or opinions on her. The rare case where an opponent did steal my Conqueror Lilias, I think I did draft her, and I ended up winning most of the time, but yeah, just not enough experience to really say much about her other than just not too strong in the season, during the season and the meta. Jenua, yeah, this is my Jenua. I think he did get some gear stolen at some point. He used to be 220 speed, but I think I upped his damage while slowing him down a bit. It's a Jenua. It's serviceable. Pick him whenever Elena's pre-banned or I stole her, and he just works in the draft. Yeah, pretty standard Jenua. He does his job if you draft him well in the right scenarios, right? Standard RTA stuff. Here's my SSV. Why is she on AoE? I think that happened in a very niche draft. Yeah, this is my Sylvan Sage. I went for the more high damage Destro, preferably Torrent build for her. You know, I think this build kind of gained traction after E7WC from Hazamare, I think that's his name, and just essentially trying to replicate that build, right? Essentially just pure DPS that you can play in, you know, debuffers, since she is immune to debuffs when she has 3 or higher focus, along with Chatty, which just scales off of her attack, which scales even more during the match. Yeah. The times where I did draft her, she worked, but I wish I could make her faster. I wish I could give her more damage, but gear limitations, right? As well as imprints. You know, missing 8% crit really hurts in the potential builds you can do, but it is what it is. As well as just a non-max Chatty. Still debating on, you know, like how many extra Chatties I should save, you know, since I'm missing 2 essentially limit breaks here. I'm sitting on 2 extra, but yeah. Mirsa, she's just an imprint. She's holding gear, right? She used to have better boots, but I mean, who cares? It's an imprint. She just wants gear. Her artifact's not even maxed. Hand guy, I think this is like a second build variation I had him on during the season. I just like a lot of other units I've gone over right so far, just didn't really draft him that much. Didn't really fit my draft style. But yeah, here's his build. Try to make him more bruiser, 200-ish speed. Honestly, a very gear-intensive unit for like the kind of builds you want to make with him, right? Trying to be a bruiser while having okay health, or like on pen set, right? Just really difficult, but whatever. We didn't really play him that much, and the times we do, he does his job, but I think we usually end up losing since we just don't get enough value from him as well as other units. Yeah. This meta was very much a play as many broken units as you can, I feel like, and just create a good enough synergy team to out-synergize the opponent. Unless you're cleaving, of course, but yeah. Celine. Yeah, this is my Celine. She is very high HP for no reason, but that's just because she is my... Where was I? Sorry, I had to cut something out, something happened. Where was I? This is my Celine. She is very high HP for no reason, but that's just because she is essentially... She is my highest gear score unit. Yeah, I mean, look at the pieces. We even have flat def, which is more efficient for her, for thieves. Lot of bruiser gear. I don't really have much pure attack, high damage, destro pieces. A lot of bruiser. So, yeah, that's my Celine build. Kind of made up for by max artifact though. I forgot what mystic banner it was, but I essentially maxed out her artifact from the mystic banner, which kept on dropping me sword storms, or storm swords, yeah. So, yeah, this is my Celine. I used to draft her a lot in the early parts of the season, especially when I was fighting Sea Phantom, but then I banned her, so she became more of a 4-5 pick for me versus very non-attack heavy teams like Hellion Lua, DDR, etc. Yeah, like in the spots where you want to draft her, she'll work, but because so many people play cockroach units like BBK or even Flan, kinda made it more difficult to play this unit effectively, just because there were other units just out surviving. But yeah, that's my Celine. Skip Euphine since she wasn't buffed until after season. Here's my Mort. Yeah, standard Mort. I tried to find a more definitive build for him during the season, but couldn't really find one. He's on like the next best gear after everybody else. I went for just, you know, slower, but still having some decent health, and then maintaining high, like, max crit chance to still do damage, right? But yeah, it's a Mort. We're on the increased damage on S3, and then Elbrus, since I don't really have any other better options. If I had a Holy Sack, I would play him on Holy Sack, but we don't. And then my Vic flag's only plus 15, so yeah, that's my Mort. Green Senya. This is tech. This is a very, like, random-ish tech, but this is mainly inspired from Pooty Tang, one of the guys I mentioned from Sue's Discord community, right? One of the fellow Emperor players that, you know, we ended up ending Emp together. He brought on this idea of like a Requiem Roana solution, since if the opponent, you know, drafts Requiem Roana and specifically they don't have like New Moon Luna, who seals Senya's S2, whenever the opponent just rips Requiem Roana's S3, cooldown resets everybody. Because Requiem is a non-attack or non-critical hit, you know, S3 hit, that procs Senya's S2, which then procs Mort's Artifact S2, or Mort's Artifact, which gives everybody the cooldown reduction effect. And yeah, you just essentially nullified Requiem Roana's cooldown reset. I drafted her a couple of times. It was hit or miss, right? Because some of the times I did want to draft her, they had New Moon Luna, or like they had some other form of like just debuffs that made it really difficult to fight. But yeah, we have her, and she worked when she worked. Last Rider Krau. I don't really have much to say about him. I personally didn't really play him that much, but the times where Elena was pre-banned, and I kind of just wanted just a super neutral, like, mitigation knight, I might have drafted LRK. He's decent, but for my draft style, his cooldown reduction, which some teams and units love to abuse, I didn't really do that, so he felt very mid for me, but still a decent unit. Decent mitigation, does damage on S3 if no Ilanav, right? So yeah, it's an LRK. We have him on Prot immunity because I didn't really have any other build to go with. I thought about speed HP and like Bastion of Perlucia, right? But I ended up playing like other Bastion of Perlucia units, namely Arrowwell, which is coming up soon. But yeah, it's an LRK. He worked sometimes. This is my Arya. standard Arya. She's decent, I think, but don't really draft her too often, right? The times I do draft her and I have everything set up well, she's a beast. You know, it's just an automatic win, but those are very far and few. Yeah, just a standard Arya. Empyrean Ilanov. This unit's kind of busted for multiple reasons, which you may have heard from other places, but yeah, this is my Ilanov. Funny story, I had a really bad win rate with her for like the first half of the season, where I was still trying to figure everything out. I don't even remember what my first initial build on her was, but it wasn't good. I think I tried to play her as like a mid tank. Yeah, I'm like a mid tank or like a cleanser, right? Didn't really work out well. And then I stopped using her. Really bad decision. Really bad decision, but and then I re-geared her. I ended up going with this counter pen set. I think I used to be on like Adamant Shield, or yeah, like Adamant Shield or some other artifact, or like even Elbrus. I was on Adamant Shield for most of the season until I essentially got converted by a single match where Passion of Pelusia basically saved the game. So I kind of converted. Yeah, I tried Rise of a Monarch, but it just didn't feel like it gave enough impact for me personally. Oh yeah, another artifact I used to run was like Wings of Light and Shadow for the crit chance, but the stats on it are really bad for Ilanov specifically. She's an HP scaler, but it gives some attack. What can you do? But yeah, ended up switching to Bastion. Didn't really like Rise of a Monarch since, I mean, plus 15 and the fact that we're only 25k HP doesn't feel great. So yeah, going with essentially the second best option for Ilanov, Passion of Pelusia, was just the way to go. You get a free immunity as well as barrier and back row barrier and immunity. So yeah, that's my Ilanov. This is my Blood Moon Haste. Most of the cases where I did consider drafting LRK, I just drafted Blood Moon Haste instead, since he kind of fits my draft style a lot better than LRK, as well as being an answer to LRK if the opponent tries picking him. Just a standard Blood Moon Haste, like 170, 160-ish speed, good bulk, Celestine. Ideally, we would be ER, but I just didn't have that kind of gear, and one of the better builds I could fribbles had effectiveness, so we ended up going with that. It did make for some pretty funny moments though sometimes, where an opponent, you know, expects an ER Blood Moon Haste, but then I proceed to strip their immunity or some other really important buff off of a unit because I had effectiveness, and then because I had effectiveness, we proc bloody, get a lot of healing. Yeah, that's my haste. Pretty good unit this season if Ilanov was banned. Yeah, I should have drafted him more. Again, just most of the season I was trying to figure everything out, but yeah. This is my Choux. She just has gear. We rarely drafted her. Wukong. You know, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this unit, right? Like, there are cases and situations where I feel like he should be a good pick, but then I still lose. like I don't know what I'm supposed to do, right? But the few situations where he is a really good pick and it works out is great. He's one of the few units where he could actually deal DPS or deal damage into an Ilanov, who, you know, because of her passive, just cuts off a lot of viable DPS. But with Wukong, it's like, well, about that. I just increased my damage percent, pen. So one of the few units that can do that. I went for the increased damage on S3, went with his own artifact, didn't really go Sigurd since we played Lifesteal, and I mean, this is essentially my Rift build, but it can work for RTA. I didn't really have much success again with him, I didn't really have much success, so yeah, this is my Wukong build. The times where I do draft him and it actually works, I mean, hey, it works, but yeah, not a high priority draft unit for me. Here's my Red Ravi. She just has gear. I don't have the correct gear to make like an optimal one, but I never really drafted her anyway. You didn't really see many Navy Captain Landies this season for the guaranteed crits, as well as just not owning LCB, so Ravi is the better solution for me. But it didn't really matter. Didn't really play her that much. Her gear's pretty bad for me. But yeah, that's my Ravi. Arrowwell. This unit. Yeah. This unit actually did help a decent amount for me during the season. It was kind of unintentional, right? Sometimes whenever the opponent first picks Elena, and I kind of felt it was going to be a more standard game, I would end up picking Broken Unit plus Arrowwell. So like New Moon Luna, Arrowwell, or like Soak Flan, Arrowwell. And the draft would proceed, and I would just be in a pretty decent spot because I just had really strong mitigation with Arrowwell. Most of the season I did play Bastion of Perlucia, so the stats you see here aren't really reflective of what her original build was, but she was essentially 32k HP, same defense, slightly less effectiveness, and slightly less ER, like 130 something, and triple HP, right? But both worked, like both of these builds worked, and yeah, she did her job. She tanked. Whenever she took a turn, give everybody a pretty thick barrier on S3 as well as stunning something if they are low ER, and yeah, just out survive the opponent essentially. And it, because I played so many light units, Conqueror being one of them, just set up for success essentially. She did kind of fall off towards the latter half of the season though, so didn't really draft her as much, but she still did her job when I did draft her. Her win rate was only about like 50-50, but I think that's partly because we were still figuring out like how to draft right during the season. So this is my Airwell now. Yeah. Lionheart Cermia, my second highest gear score unit. We didn't really play her that much. When we did, she did her job. She probably has a very high win rate for me. Since most of the games where I do draft her, she just obliterates stuff. She was originally on Golden Rose, but since I headhunted Lilibet, she kind of stole my only Golden Rose. But yeah, ever since picking up Lilibet, we didn't really play her that much. But the times where we did, and she was on her original Golden Rose build, she did her job. She destroyed stuff. Yeah. This is her gear for reference if y'all wanted to see. But yeah. If I could, I'd try to speed her up. 171 just feels a bit slow, but it's kind of made up for the fact that she's decently bulky and does a lot of damage if she goes. So this is my savior Auden. I didn't really play her that much. She was one of those units where I tried to like just find a purpose or roll for, but what I ended up just going with was nuclear damage S2, like anti-cleave stuff, but we didn't really see much use of her, so I don't even know if it would have been successful or not, but yeah, probably not. But yeah, this is my Auden. Politis number 2. Yeah, this is horrendous. I don't even know why I hovered over this. she's supposed to be a damage Politis, but like because I'm so broke on books and like already spreading the gear thin, she never got drafted. So yeah, we have a second Politis though, so that's cool. Requiem Roana, pretty standard. Like it's average. I think. Still working on trying to find a helmet replacement, right? Ideally, I think I want to try to go triple torrent in the future. Just give her the option of doing damage, right? While still debuffing, but I don't know. It's serviceable. That's all that really matters. And she holds a book, so yeah. Can't afford plus 30, so we're on plus 15. Here's the other Roana, green Roana. She has gear. I only drafted her whenever the opponent, has a bunch of stuff that makes her heal. Extras, counters, duels, etc. But, yeah. I think she had a plus 15 ring, but now she has this. I don't know. I mean, she's geared, right? She does what she needs to do. Amiki. Definitely a surprise, unit for the season. Can just hard anchor a lot of teams versus squishy teams, right? Like she's essentially an automatic win versus some of those teams if they don't draft properly bulky or respond to her. Yeah, I mean it's an Amiki. Mine's pretty bad, not gonna lie. Almost 5k attack, and then we're not even 120 ER, but it's serviceable. She won in the drafts where she was supposed to win, so yeah. The second or third MVP of the season, BBK. Ever since they released the EE, Jesus Christ, what the fuck did they do? This unit was everywhere, and I hated it. But because we have to adapt, we play her too. And yeah, this is my build. I went base speed, high damage, and okay ER. It worked most games I played her, right? I even went as far as drafting her in the 1-2 phase of drafts, especially against ML Ilanav. She was one of my few answers to Ilanav, right? What's Ilanav gonna do if I can just nuke his whole team, or just nuke the Ilanav, right? So, yeah, this is my Bloodblade Karen. She's all right. I'm happy with her build. She was, yeah, third MVP of the season for me essentially. The MVPs going from Conqueror, Flan, and BBK. While Young wasn't released, and finally, this is my baby Captain Landy. I don't think I changed her build once during the season. She used to be crit with slightly more damage at the same bulk, but we then went to immunity since I had to steal a counter chest piece for my ML Ilanav build up here. But, it's still a pretty decent candy, I feel like. I'm happy with it. The times where I do draft her, she tends to pop off sometimes, but her win rate's still very much 50-50, right? I mean, this meta is just very oppressive for candy, which is a wild statement to say. But yeah, standard candy, high damage, okay bulk. Yeah, we ball. In the future though, I want to try to get a better helmet, just because. I mean, I like this unit as well, even if she's not too great in the current meta. And yeah, that is essentially all of my units. Some units y'all might have missed or see I don't own, but are very prevalent in the meta during the season was DDR, Ambitious Tywin, Bellion, some other units, right? I just don't own those units. We can go here and just see. I'm still missing a lot of ML5s, right? And yeah, It's like these are the MO5s I'm missing. Still missing a very sizable amount. Again, kind of regret going with Lilibet for the headhunt. Still not a bad pick, but I think I could have easily gone with a way better, substantial, higher impact unit than Lilibet. But yeah, still missing a lot. And some other units that I do own but don't play. Those two pre-bans I mentioned earlier in the video, Harceti and Sea Phantom, I do own them, but I just figured the trade-off of like fighting against them or playing them myself was just not worth it. I really hate fighting Sea Phantom and Harceti, and also I just didn't really own that many combo units for Sea Phantom. Like the only one I own is Jenua, which is still very strong, but then if you have to fight Illunav, then it's like, well, he's useless. I mean, he can still do damage, but his S3 damage just got cut dramatically. So, yeah. Other units I also own but didn't play or really build. This abomination of a Bryceria. I used this last season for something, but yeah, it's a Briar. Didn't really play her that much. Also own Harceti. Oh yeah. Also, yeah, this segment of the video is just gonna be like units I did own but ungeared or didn't play. Ludwig is one of those units where I ungeared towards the last half of, or yeah, like the last week of the season, where I was just reprioritizing and sharing gear on the units that I felt I actually played. So yeah, Ludwig got cut, so did Ida, so did Frida, you know, Blue Soul Weaver, just to make sure I didn't fuck up pronunciation. Didn't really play those units. Ungeared, didn't really play Spectre, and the other unit I pre-banned, Harceti, I do own her, but I pre-ban her because I hate fighting her. Like, I don't think I need to go in depth on how I feel about her and why, but yeah. Did not want to fight or deal with this unit, so we pre-banned it. Would rather fight Luna, so yeah. Some other notable mentions of units I do own but didn't build or ungeared towards the last half of the season was Laya. Again, just didn't really have the necessary gear on her to really fight competently versus players. Also didn't play the plus 30 Sweet Miracle on her, so she was missing a lot of that value of being a good cleanser, right? Because she has a 25% chance to not cleanse herself, and that could mean a lot. So yeah, didn't play Laya. As for other units, I'm not really too sure. Can't really think of them off the top of my head. Let's just go through levels real quick. Obviously, like Ras, like Mercedes free units, they're just not good. Ungeared Peyra, she used to be my second or like my fastest unit while using my second fastest speed set, but even that speed set wasn't actually that fast for like Emperor. Like, it was only 303 on my second fastest, which is only one speed faster than my Conk, so it's like, what's the point, you know? So we just ungeared her, gave her gear to like other higher impact units. Again, Ida didn't get played, ungeared. Frida didn't get played, didn't really pick or play her. Laya, can't play Luluca because I don't have her artifact, unfortunately. Ungeared Destina, we didn't really play tank down with her much. Didn't have Carmen built, surprisingly. Yeah, my prot set holder ended up just being LRK, and sometimes I never even played LRK. I would just play Arrowwell if I did want a tank in that scenario, because I played so many light units, but yeah. Ungeared, didn't play LPK. She demands a lot of speed, high DPS speed, like primo gear, which I just can't afford. Broman, Kawazu. I wish I could build this unit, but I can't I don't have RPG. I don't have Rocket Punch or like some other stuff. Yeah. What other units? I think that's basically it. Never built Hua Young, never built Christie. Yeah, that's basically it. That is basically it. Closing thoughts. I don't really have much to say. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say here. Yeah. Thanks for watching. This has been my Emperor account review. If I missed anything and y'all are curious about something, just let me know in the comments. I'll probably answer it, if any. Yeah, season was kind of a mess, but we pulled through. My MVPs were Kong, Soak, Flan, and BBK. Kind of just embracing the nuclear meta DPS of the season and just pairing her with Conqueror. That was essentially my whole game plan, and then just closing out the draft with respective 4/5s. Yeah. I think that's basically it. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, thanks for watching.